Hello. Welcome to our sixth installment as we dig in deeper to the book of Revelation. And today we're looking at the sixth church of Revelation, the church in Philadelphia. And some interesting background information on the church here in Philadelphia. As you probably know, the name Philadelphia means brotherly love. So this is the city of brotherly love. But actually, it was named after King Attalus II. I know the font here might look like 11, but it's Attalus II, who was the king of Pergamum. And in fact, he had a nickname of Philadelphus because he had such a close, loving relationship with his brother. And so the architect, the builder of the city of Philadelphia was actually from Pergamum. So when it became time to name the city, he named it after the nickname of King Attalus II. And this city of Philadelphia was located at a very interesting geographical location. It was on the Imperial Highway. It was a crossroads of several trading routes. And so it was considered to be a mission city, a secular missionary city, so to speak, because its mission was to spread the Greek language and the Greek culture with the people that would cross into it from the trade routes and from various places around the world. And so this is a pretty interesting concept to keep in mind as we look at these opening words of Jesus's message to the church there in Philadelphia. We read his words in chapter 3, verse 8 of Revelation, and he says, "I know your deeds. See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. I know that you have little strength, yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name." Jesus here is saying, you have done quite a bit of work. You've done a lot of good deeds. You have made some major accomplishments, but I know that your strength is waning. See, the Christians there in Philadelphia, they had taken advantage of their unique geographical location, and they had used their position to become an open door, not to send out Greek culture and Greek language, but to send out missionaries with the gospel message. And through their efforts and through their sending out of missionaries and supporting the gospel work, they had done a great amount of good for the cause of Christ. And yet, because of all of the energy they had expended, we find here that their energy, that their strength is starting to fail. But Jesus continues, and he says in verse 9, "I will make those who are of the synagogue of Satan, who claim to be Jews, though they are not, but are liars, I will make them come and fall down at your feet and acknowledge that I have loved you." See, it wasn't just an internal loss of strength that I think was plaguing this church in Philadelphia. They were also receiving external attacks. See, much like the church that we read about in Smyrna, there was this group of people that had two faces. They presented themselves as Jews that were allegiant to God, but in reality, they proved through their actions, through their oppositions to the Christians, through the things they said, the things they did, that in fact their allegiance didn't lie with God, but with Satan. Because if they were truly aligned with God, then they would have been supporters of the Christians there. They would have been spiritual brothers and sisters, or at least cousins. But in fact, they were the enemies of the work here that the Christians were doing in Philadelphia. But Jesus has some good words to say. And we read about these encouraging words starting here in verse 10. Jesus says, "Since you have kept my command to endure patiently, I will also keep you from the hour of trial that is going to come on the whole world to test the inhabitants of the earth." Jesus says, you have been faithful. And because you have been faithful, your future is looking good. Notice here that Jesus does not have any words of rebuke. Unlike his messages to the other 6 churches there in Asia, there was always something Jesus had to point out that they needed to improve, that they needed to repent of. Here, Jesus only has good words, affirming words, words of encouragement to the church here in Philadelphia because they had remained faithful. Through all of the efforts of sending out missionaries, of supporting the gospel work, through all of the attacks of the synagogue of Satan, they had remained connected with Christ. And so Jesus says, because of your faithfulness, because of the fact that you have stayed connected with me, you have nothing to fear for the future. Whatever bad things might happen to the world around you, you will receive my blessings of protection. This is some good news. And in fact, Jesus doesn't stop there. He continues in verses 11 to 12. And he says, I am coming soon. Hold on to what you have so that no one will take your crown. The one who is victorious, I will make a pillar in the temple of my God. Never again will they leave it. I will write on them the name of my God and the name of the city of my God, the New Jerusalem, which is coming down out of heaven from my God. And I will write also on them my new name. Some good words, some encouraging words, some major promises that Jesus makes to this church here in Philadelphia. And as we look at this from a historicist perspective, as we look at these churches from the broad strokes of history, we see that this church of Philadelphia represents the 6th period in the Christian era. This period lasted between the years 740 AD and 1844. And during this time frame, we see some pretty important things happening. Because of the Great Awakening that had swept across America and Europe during the end of the previous period, during the end of the Church of Sardis period, there was a lot of people that had become re-engaged with the gospel. Their passion for Jesus and the gospel work had been rekindled. And so they realized that they couldn't keep this all to themselves, that there was a work to be done. And so across Europe and across America, numerous missionary societies began to spring up. And this wasn't just in particular to one denomination, it was trans-denominational. Christians of all stripes were realizing that they needed to spread this message of good news. They needed to tell others about Jesus across the world. And so they sent out thousands of missionaries around the world. And they realized that others needed to hear this good news. And in fact, during this time, people were realizing that there was changes taking place. Something different was happening. They felt that they were living in prophetic times. And so this reignited their desire to study the prophetic books of Daniel and Revelation, just to see what exactly, if they could understand more of the symbols and the imagery, to see how that might apply to their lives and to their newfound or rediscovered mission. And so people began to unlock some of the secrets of Daniel and Revelation, be able to interpret them and understand them in ways that they hadn't done before, or at least not for quite some time. And so this is the story of the Church of Philadelphia, of the Christians in that church. And perhaps some of their experiences reflect your experiences. I know I find some connections as I read this story, as I read this message. Maybe you have been working for the Lord for quite some time, for years, decades, a lifetime even. And now, despite your faithful service, you're finding that your energy isn't quite there like it used to be. Not for any lack of desire, but just the circle, the seasons of life have gotten to the point where you just can't quite do what you were able to do previously. Or maybe you've been working hard and along the way you've been betrayed once, twice, a dozen times. Maybe you've been betrayed by people that you thought were your friends. Maybe you've been attacked by people that you thought would be an encouragement, would be a source of support in your service to God. And all of these things have been weighing down on you, and you're just not quite sure how you're going to find the strength to continue, to keep going. Well, Jesus has this powerful message of encouragement here to us through his message to the church at Philadelphia. He says, I am coming soon, and I'm going to make all things right again. And because you've been faithful, because you haven't severed your connection with me, no matter what might happen, even though you might feel your strength is failing at this moment, you don't need to worry because I have your back. I am watching out for you, and I will be here guiding you, protecting you until I come again. And this is a powerful promise. It is something that I hold on to, that brings me courage, that brings me hope, that strengthens me in my efforts and in my relationship with Christ. And I hope that it is something that you can cling to as well, that brings you encouragement, and that strengthens your work for the gospel, and that strengthens your relationship with Christ. Thanks for joining us, and God bless.